Hi, welcome to my channel about mystical stories, Mystic Dawn, creepy legends. I wish you an enjoyable listening experience. The gravel crunched beneath the tires as our car rolled to a stop in front of Grandma's house. Took a deep breath, inhaling the familiar scent of the countryside mixed with the tang of impending responsibility. Arthur, my brother, sat beside me, his face a mask of begrudging obligation. "Here we are," I muttered, breaking the silence that hung heavy between us. Arthur grunted in response, his eyes fixed on his phone screen, a world away from our current situation. I turned off the ignition and glanced at the aging house before us. Its weather-beaten exterior stood as a testament to decades of memories and secrets held within. "Come on, Arthur," I said, opening my door and stepping out onto the cracked driveway. "Let's go greet Grandma." Arthur followed reluctantly, dragging his feet as if each step weighed him down. We climbed the porch steps, the wood creaking beneath our weight, and I rapped lightly on the door. Seconds stretched into eternity before the door creaked open, revealing Grandma's frail figure framed in the doorway. Her eyes, though clouded with age, lit up with recognition as she welcomed us inside. "Arthur, dear, it's been too long," she said, her voice tinged with warmth. Arthur nodded curtly, his demeanor stiff and guarded. "Yeah, hi, Grandma," he mumbled, barely meeting her gaze. I shot him a warning glance, silently urging him to show some respect, but he brushed it off with a shrug. As Grandma ushered us inside, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease settling in the pit of my stomach. Taking care of her was our duty, but little did I know the challenges and suspicions that awaited us within these walls. As days turned into weeks, Arthur's behavior grew increasingly concerning. He spent hours holed up in his room, the glow of the television casting eerie shadows across his face as he delved deeper into the world of true crime documentaries. One evening, I found him hunched over the screen, his eyes glued to a particularly gruesome scene of a family murder. I hesitated in the doorway, unsure whether to disturb him or retreat silently. "What are you watching?" I finally asked, breaking the silence that hung heavy in the air. Arthur jumped at the sound of my voice, his gaze darting guiltily towards the door. "Nothing, just documentary," he muttered, hastily minimizing the screen. I frowned, sensing something amiss. "You've been watching a lot of those lately," I remarked, crossing my arms over my chest. "Isn't that a bit morbid?" Arthur shrugged nonchalantly, but I could see the tension in his shoulders. "It's just interesting, okay? Trying to understand why people do the things they do." Narrowed my eyes, a knot of suspicion forming in my stomach. "Is that all it is, Arthur? Just curiosity?" He met my gaze briefly before averting his eyes. Of course, what else would it be? But his evasive response only fueled my doubts. There was something lurking beneath the surface, something darker than mere curiosity. And as I watched him retreat back into his room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was treading dangerous territory. The ticking of the clock echoed through the silent house as I crept down the hallway, my footsteps muffled by the worn carpet beneath my feet. My heart pounded in my chest, adrenaline coursing through my veins as I approached Grandma's room. Pushing the door open with a gentle creak, I found her sitting in her favorite armchair, a cup of tea cradled in her trembling hands. Arthur's words from the night before echoed in my mind, his dismissive tone doing little to ease my suspicions. "Here, Grandma, let me take that for you," I said, forcing a smile as I reached for the cup. She looked up at me with a grateful smile, her eyes clouded with age, but still sharp with wisdom. "Thank you, dear, you're always so thoughtful." I couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt as I replaced the cup with one I had prepared myself, carefully measuring out the ingredients to ensure its safety. But the fear of what Arthur might do if left unchecked outweighed any reservations I had. As Grandma took a sip, I held my breath, waiting for any sign of distress. But to my relief, she merely sighed in contentment, the tension draining from her frail frame. "Such a lovely evening, isn't it?" she remarked, gazing out the window at the fading light. I nodded, a knot of guilt tightening in my stomach. "Yes, Grandma, it is." But even as I spoke the words, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was betraying her trust. And as I watched her drift off to sleep, a part of me wondered if I was truly doing the right thing or if I was merely delaying the inevitable. The weight of suspicion hung heavy in the air as I confronted Arthur in the dimly lit living room. His eyes darted nervously around the room, a flicker of guilt betraying his stoic facade. "Arthur, we need to talk," I said, my voice firm despite the tremor of uncertainty coursing through me. He turned to face me, his expression guarded. "About what?" he replied, feigning innocence. I held his gaze, refusing to back down. About what you've been doing to her." Arthur's mask slipped for a fraction of a second before he regained his composure. "I haven't been doing anything to her," he insisted, his voice tinged with frustration. Took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. "Then why are you so obsessed with those documentaries? Why do you spend every waking moment watching them?" Arthur's jaw clenched, his fists balling at his sides. "It's none of your business," he snapped, his facade crumbling under the weight of my accusations. But I wasn't about to let him off the hook that easily. "It is my business when Grandma's life is at stake," I retorted, my voice rising with each word. Arthur fell silent, his eyes darting towards the floor as if searching for an escape. And in that moment, I knew the truth. Whether he was the culprit or not, he was hiding something that could tear our family apart if left unchecked. As the silence stretched between us, I braced myself for his response, steeling myself for whatever came next. But little did I know, the revelation that awaited us would shake the very foundation of our family to its core. The flickering glow of the television cast dancing shadows across the basement walls as we settled in for a casual movie night. Laughter mingled with the scent of popcorn, creating an atmosphere of camaraderie and relaxation. But our peaceful evening took a sharp turn when a sudden noise echoed from the depths of the basement, cutting through the lighthearted chatter like a knife. "What was that?" one of my friends exclaimed, his eyes wide with alarm. I exchanged a nervous glance with Arthur before rising to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest as I made my way towards the basement door. With trembling hands, I pushed it open, the darkness swallowing me whole as I descended into its depths. The air grew colder with each step, sending shivers down my spine as I navigated the labyrinth of boxes and forgotten belongings. And then I saw him. A shadowy figure lurking in the corner, his features obscured by the dim light. My breath caught in my throat as I took in the sight of him, his presence sending a chill down my spine. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice quivering with fear. The figure turned towards me, his eyes glinting in the darkness as he brandished a gleaming mashig in his hand. "None of your business," he growled, his voice low and menacing. Panic surged through me as I stumbled backwards, my mind racing with a million possibilities. But before I could react, Arthur appeared at my side, his expression steely with determination. "We need to get out of here," he whispered, his voice urgent. Together, we backed away slowly, our eyes never leaving the intruder as we retreated towards the safety of the stairs. And as we emerged into the light of the basement, I couldn't shake the feeling that our peaceful evening had been shattered beyond repair. Archie's heart raced as he approached his childhood home, the familiar sight of the quaint suburban street offering little comfort in the face of his mounting anxiety. He had been away for far too long, but nothing could have prepared him for what awaited him behind the closed doors of his family home. As he stepped through the front door, a wave of unease washed over him, the silence of the empty house echoing like a deafening roar in his ears. Where were his parents? Why was the house so eerily quiet? His questions were soon answered when a voice echoed from the shadows, sending a chill down his spine. Well, Look who's finally decided to show up. Archie whirled around to find a stranger standing before him, his features obscured by the dim light. His heart pounded in his chest as he took in the man's menacing presence, a sense of dread settling in the pit of his stomach. "Who are you?" Archie demanded, his voice shaky with fear. The stranger smirked, his eyes glinting with malice. "I'm the new owner of this house," he replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. Archie's blood ran cold as realization dawned upon him. This man wasn't just a stranger, he was a threat, a danger lurking in the shadows of his once safe haven. "You can't just waltz in here and claim ownership," Archie protested, his voice rising with indignation. But the stranger merely chuckled, a sinister sound that sent shivers down Archie's spine. "Watch me," he taunted, taking a step closer. Archie's fists clenched at his sides as he braced himself for the confrontation that lay ahead. He may have been away for far too long, but he refused to let this stranger tear his family apart without a fight. The minutes felt like hours as I raced against the ticking clock, my heart pounding in my chest with every passing second. Grandma's life hung in the balance, and I knew I couldn't afford to waste a single moment. With determination fueling my every move, I darted through the dimly lit corridors of the house, my senses on high alert for any sign of danger. Arthur's betrayal had shattered the fragile peace of our family, leaving us teetering on the edge of destruction. But I refused to let him win. I refused to let him destroy everything we held dear. As I burst into Grandma's room, I found her lying still in her bed, her breathing shallow and labored. Panic surged through me as I took in the sight of her frail form, her once bright eyes now clouded with pain. "Grandma," I exclaimed, rushing to her side and taking her hand in mine. "Hang in there, we're going to get you help." She mustered a weak smile, her voice barely a whisper as she spoke. "Thank you, dear, but I fear it may be too late." Tears welled in my eyes as I squeezed her hand tighter, refusing to accept defeat. "No, Grandma, don't say that. You're going to be okay, I promise." But even as I spoke the words, doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind. Time was running out, and with each passing moment, the threat against Grandma grew more imminent. With trembling hands, I reached for the phone, my fingers fumbling with the buttons as I dialed for help. But as the line rang on the other end, a sense of dread washed over me. Would help arrive in time, or had Arthur's betrayal sealed Grandma's fate once and for all? The tension in the air was palpable as I squared my shoulders and prepared to confront the looming threat that had infiltrated our lives. With every step I took, the weight of uncertainty bore down upon me, but I refused to let fear dictate my actions. As I entered the dimly lit living room, I found Arthur standing at the center, his gaze fixed on the stranger who had invaded our home. His jaw was set in a determined line, his eyes ablaze with a fierce resolve. "Arthur, we need to do something," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor of fear coursing through me. He nodded, his expression grim. "I know, but we can't let him get away with this." Together, we approached the stranger, our footsteps echoing in the silence of the room. He turned to face us, smug grin playing at the corners of his lips. Well, what do we have here?" he sneered, his voice dripping with contempt. I squared my shoulders, refusing to back down in the face of his arrogance. "You have no right to be here," I said, my voice ringing with authority. The stranger chuckled, a menacing sound that sent a chill down my spine. "On the contrary, my dear, I have every right. This house belongs to me now, whether you like it or not." But I wasn't about to let him intimidate me. With a steely resolve, I took a step forward, my eyes locking with his in a silent battle of wills. "You may have the papers to prove ownership," I said, my voice low and dangerous, "but you'll never have the right to call this place home, not as long as there's breath left in our bodies." Arthur stood at my side, his presence a silent testament to our solidarity. And as we faced off against the stranger who sought to tear our family apart, I knew that together We were stronger than any threat that dared to stand in our way. The air crackled with tension as the final showdown unfolded, each moment laden with the weight of impending revelation. In the dimly lit confines of the living room, the truth simmered just beneath the surface, waiting to be unearthed. As I stood face to face with Arthur, the gravity of our situation hung heavy in the air. The accusations, the suspicions, the betrayals, all of it had led to this pivotal moment where the truth would finally be laid bare. "Arthur, I need to know the truth," I said, my voice trembling with urgency. "Are you really capable of harming Grandma?" He met my gaze, his eyes filled with a mixture of defiance and desperation. "No, I'm not," he insisted, his voice wavering with emotion. "I would never do anything to hurt her." He searched his eyes for any sign of deception, any hint of the darkness that had clouded our family's peace. But all I found was the flicker of uncertainty, the shadow of doubt that lingered in the depths of his soul. And then, from the shadows, a voice spoke, a voice that sent a chill down my spine and turned my blood to ice. "You're right to be suspicious of him," Grandma said, her voice frail but filled with conviction as she emerged from the darkness. "But Arthur isn't the one you should be worried about." Turned to her, my heart pounding in my chest as her words sank in. "What do you mean, Grandma? Who else could it be?" She met my gaze with a steely resolve, her eyes burning with a fire that belied her age. "It's me," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm the one who's been watching those documentaries, who's been plotting against Arthur." Shock coursed through me as I struggled to comprehend her words. How could Grandma, the woman who had raised us with love and kindness, be capable of such darkness? But as the truth unfurled before me, I realized that our family was built on a foundation of secrets and lies, a foundation that had finally crumbled under the weight of truth. And as we stood together in the aftermath of revelation, I knew that our journey was far from over. But with the truth finally revealed, we could begin to rebuild what had been lost and forge a new path forward, one filled with honesty, forgiveness, and the unwavering strength of family.